And this uluwan kabira, I translate as infinitely exalted, because the ulu we affirm for Allah is limitless. The ulu that the anthropomorphists affirm for Allah has a limit. It starts where the throne ends, over the throne. The ulu that Ahlul Sunnah believe in is that Allah Ta'ala, His exaltedness doesn't have any measure. The people who say Allah is in a place, they believe in a limited exaltedness of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Because if He's in a place, that means His exaltedness, His ulu ends where the arsh ends. Where the created world stops, He starts. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, amma yaquluna uluwan kabira. Allah Ta'ala is free of all faults and far from what they ascribe to Him. So in this chapter, now remember, this was a contemporary of who? Ibn Taymiyyah. Ibn Taymiyyah started to make some statements at the end of the 7th century, basically the end of like 690 and up to 700 after the Hijrah. That's only when he started to make certain statements that the other ulama of Ahlul Sunnah criticized him for. Before then, he was an illustrious scholar that everyone loved, and who Al-Dhahabi himself, one of his students, said he had on him, كَانَ مُنَوَّرًا مُضِيئًا عَلَى مُحَيَّاهُ سِيمَ السَّلَفِ. He was full of light, full of nur, full of a glow, ضِيَاء. And he had on his face the mark of the Salaf, like he looked like he could have come from the time of the Salaf. This was before he said statements he made in the Wasitiyah and the Hamawiyah and other books of the Aqidah that he wrote in the latter part of his life, which was in some 690 something to 710, 15 after the Hijrah. When he made those books and said those things, they debated with him, they imprisoned him. They even gave orders. The leader, the Amir of the Muslim state at that time, gave leaders for the khutabat to make the khutbah. When they made the khutbah, to make the khutbah read that whoever is on the aqidah of Ibn Taymiyyah, halla maluhu wa damu, that whoever is on the aqidah he had, his money and his blood is lawful, because of some things that he said, ya ikhwani, that we have to be aware of. In this chapter, Ibn Hamdan al-Hanbali, rahimahullah ta'ala, also mentions statements of other Hanabila which have to do with tanzih, with exonerating Allah Azza wa Jalla from having the qualities of the creations. He says, قال التميمي في اعتقاد أحمد في حديث النزول ولا يجوز عليه الانتقال ولا الحلول في الأمكنة. Imam al-Tamimi, rahimahullah ta'ala, who we already mentioned in this book over here, right? He said about the aqidah of Imam Ahmad concerning the hadith of the descent. وَلَا يَجُوزُ عَلَيْهِ الْإِنْتِقَالِ, and it is not possible that Allah Ta'ala moves or transverses an area, nor for وَلَا الْحُلُولُ فِي الْأَمْكِنَةِ, nor for Allah Azza wa Jalla to occupy spaces or areas, to occupy a place. قال فيه ابن البناء في اعتقاد أحمد ولا يقال بحركة ولا انتقال. Ibn al-Banna said about the aqidah of Imam Ahmad, and it is not to be said that Allah Ta'ala moves or transfers from one area to another. قال القاضي أبو يعلى, القاضي أبو يعلى also said, وقد وصفه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بالنزول إلى السماء الدنيا. Remember what we said about Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la? Do you all recall what we said about him? Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la, one of the earliest Hanbali scholars who formulated the Hanbali madhab, who Al-Imam Ibn al-Jawzi refuted in Daf' Shubh al-Tashbih. Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la was a big scholar in fiqh, but he had some, in the Aqidah, he had some ideas that Ibn al-Jawzi himself had to refute before the Ash'aris or Maturidis or somebody on the outside would refute him. He, in the Hanbali madhab, said, no, this doesn't represent us. Okay? However, even with stuff that Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la said, there were other things that he didn't say, things that he negated, that the Salafis of today do not negate, which is why we have a disagreement with them. Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la even said, despite some of the anthropomorphism type of leanings that he has, he himself said, the Prophet ﷺ described Allah with descending to the lowest sky and with ulu, with highness. وقد وصفه النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بالنزول إلى السماء الدنيا والعلو. The Prophet ﷺ described Allah with descending to the first sky and with highness. لا على جهة الانتقال والحركة, not by way of movement and moving and going from place to place. كما جازت رؤيته لا في جهة, just as it's possible to see Allah without Allah being in a direction. وتجلى للجبل لا على وجه الحركة والانتقال, and Allah Azza wa Jalla manifested to the mountain not by way of movement or transversing an area from place to place. وقال لا يثبت نزول عن علو وزوال بل نزول لا يعقل معناه ورؤية لا في جهة لا ولا يعقل ذلك في الشاهد. He said the descent is not affirmed by way of highness and movement to going lower. This is not what's understood by the nuzul or by the descent. Another meaning is to be believed besides that, because this is not possible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he said the nuzul is not affirmed by way of meaning highness to lowness or in moving. But it is a nuzul la yu'qalu ma'nah. It is a nuzul, it is a descent, the meaning of which is not understood or known. This is not what they say, ikhwan. They say the ma'na is clear, the meaning is clear. We affirm the meaning and know the meaning to be literal, but the how is what we don't know. We make tafweed, or we consign the how to Allah, but we affirm the literal meanings that we all know and understand. This shows you that the Hanabila, even the early Hanabila, which other Hanbalis said had anthropomorphic leanings and inclinations, even they did not say what people are saying now about the meaning. They said the meaning is not known. Allahu a'lam what Allah meant by it. But we know Allah did not mean that He moves, changes, is in a place, is in the sky, and going higher and coming lower. We know that Allah didn't mean that. And the Prophet ﷺ didn't mean this. Difference. Ya Akhwan, please remember this. And inshallah, Allah give me tawfiq to put this online. Look at this again. Just watch it again. Next week or whatever. Just take a look at this again. Because this is something that is difficult to find anyone talking about this. It's really serious when people are lying. They're straight lying, writing books that are lies. And fooling the Muslims and causing fitna. And saying who's off and who's on and who's guided and who's misguided and who's right and who's wrong, and you should lay or sleep on a bench before you sleep with the innovators and all that sort of stuff. But when you go and you look in the books, you see these people are lying. You cannot prove what they say from what the writings of the actual shuyukh that they ascribe themselves to. So what's the difference in what they say and what the actual ulama are saying? Nuzul is not affirmed from highness to lowness or by movement. And it is a nuzul, it is a descent, the meaning of which is not known. لا يعقل معناه بل نزول لا يعقل معناه ورؤية لا في جهة. And it is a envisioning, not in a direction. ولا يعقل ذلك في الشاهد. And in the known world, the created world, this is not understood or known. So Allah Ta'ala's nuzul is not descending from high to low, but the meaning is not known. And seeing Allah is not seeing Allah in a direction, but the meaning is not known. And this is not understood in the created world that we all know. And this is how it should be. Why? Because Allah said He's different from the created world. So why should we make the created world to be the measuring stick by which we know how Allah Ta'ala is? Ibn Aqil, another great Hanbali scholar from the earlier times, وقال ابن عقيل ليس بزوال ولا انتقال ولا كنزولنا. He said it's not a descent of movement and transferring from place to place, and it's not like our descent, like from higher to lower. وقال إجماع الأمة أنه بائن من خلقه وهو على مباينته لخلقه في ذاته وصفاته وكفر من شبهه بخلقه. And he also said the ijma' of the ummah is upon Allah Ta'ala being separate from the creation. We meant that the separation that they mean is a dissimilarity, not the separation of this from that, me from you sitting in another part of the room. And he said, and Allah Ta'ala upon His separation from the creation is this way in His essence and in His qualities. And we know Allah Ta'ala's qualities like ilm, like knowledge, like kalam, hayat, life, speech, all of these cannot be physically separate from the creation. So we know that when he's saying that and the sifat, the separation he means is the dissimilarity of Allah's essence and qualities. Because how could Allah's qualities be physically in the creation anyway? So what he means that وَهُوَ عَلَى مُبَايَنَتِهِ لِخَلْقِهِ فِي ذَاتِهِ وَصِفَاتِهِ وَهُوَ عَلَى مُبَايَنَتِهِ لِخَلْقِهِ فِي ذَاتِهِ وَصِفَاتِهِ. So we go further. Abu Nasr As-Sajazi, right? This was another muhaddith and scholar that they quote from. He said, لَيْسَ فِي قَوْلِ اللَّهِ عَلَى الْعَرْشِ تَحْدِيدٍ. In saying Allah is on the throne, there is no limitation or limiting Allah Ta'ala to being in that place, or saying Allah is bound by this area and the throne is in that area. وَإِنَّمَا التحديد للعرش وما دونه. But the limitation is for the throne and what is under it. والله فوق ذلك حيث لا مكان ولا حد لأنه كان ولا مكان ثم خلق المكان وهو كما كان قبل خلق المكان. It's the same thing pretty much that this Imam Ibn Hamdan al-Hanbali said, that Allah Ta'ala is above such a thing in the sense that there is no place for Allah and no limit for Allah, that Allah existed and there was no places, then He created places, and He is as He was before He made places. Ibn Hamid said, وَهُوَ عَلَى عَرْشِهِ بِذَاتِهِ مُمَاسٌ لَهُ. Now look at this. I want you to listen to this. Ibn Hamid was another scholar. Ibn al-Jawzi refuted in Dafr Shubh al-Tashbih. He refuted Ibn Hamid also. And Ibn al-Zaghuni and al-Qadi Abu Ya'la. Ibn Hamid's quote here. Look at Ibn Hamid's quote. He says something that's not right. But Ibn Hamdan al-Hanbali points this out and says he's wrong. He says, هو على العرش بذاته. He's on the throne in his essence. This is what Ibn Hamid said. بذاته, himself, he's on the throne. مماس له, touching it, in contact with and touching the throne. وينزل من مكانه, and he descends from his place. الذي هو فيه وينتقل, and he descends from his place that he's in and he moves. وَرَدَّهُ Ibn Aqil وَغَيْرُهُ. He says, and Ibn Aqil and others than him from the Hanbalis have rejected this statement. وَخَطَّأُوهُ فِيهِ, and they said he's mistaken about this. وَذَمُّوهُ, and they blamed him and censored him for saying such a thing. وَأَصَابُوا فِي ذَلِكَ دُونَهُ. He said, and they were right in this matter instead of him. They were right and he was wrong about this. So I'm saying that if anyone had this opinion in the Hanabila, it was some few that the rest of them would refute and not accept that idea, not accept that ideology as being the true ideology of the Hanbali madhab. They khata'uhu wa dhammuhu wa raddu, you know, they say he's mistaken and he's wrong, and they put him down for that. Like they were hot against him about saying such a thing. Touching the throne, on the throne, bidhatihi, and all this stuff. يَنْزِلُ مِنْ مَكَانِهِ الَّذِي هُوَ فِيهِ, that he comes down from his place that he's in. They said, oh, this is wrong, this is not right, this is incorrect. And you're wrong for saying such a thing like this. This was the actual Hanbali madhab. These statements are being made now. If these statements were made then, we see that Ibn Hamid made such statements back in the past. And the Hanabila did not accept it, they rejected it. So what would they say about the Salafis today, making these same statements in their books? Again, this is not to attack the Salafis. May Allah guide us and guide them. May Allah Ta'ala judge us kindly and with mercy and judge them the same. It's not about anyone going to heaven or hell. We don't have the keys of Jannah or Jahannam in our hands to give it to anybody. And we're not saying who's going to go to Jannah or to hellfire in the hereafter. What we're saying is certain things that are incorrect, we have to recognize them as being incorrect while we're here in the dunya, before Yawm al-Qiyamah, before we die, before Allah Ta'ala judges us, before the scholars of the Hanbalis and the Ash'aris and the Maturidis and the Shafi'is and the Hanafis and the Malikis and the Hanbalis all come on a day, there is no doubt about it, and say that, look, Ibn Taymiyyah lied on us and our books were printed, our books were copied, our books were available, they were available in the stores, they were available online. Anyone could have checked and seen, no, this is not what we said. This man is lying against us. Why are we going to wait till Yawm al-Qiyamah? We can find out here and now and fix it now. Ibn Aqil said, على العرش لا كجالس على سرير أو كراكب دابة. Ibn Aqil said he's upon the throne, not like a person sitting on a seat or a chair or a couch for that matter, or a bed, or a person who is riding an animal. A person sitting on an animal. Now, Allah yabarak fik habib. Wa iyyakum, barakallahu fik ya sayyid. He's not on a throne like a person sitting in a chair or a couch or something, or a person who's sitting on a riding animal, a beast. Al-Qadi also said, Laysa bi qu'udin wala mumasa. His istiwa is not sitting or touching or contact with the throne. So what I'm saying is, like, the point that I'm making here with all these quotes, there are some other quotes here, but the main point has been established that he, instead of just saying, like Ibn Taymiyyah tends to say a lot of times, and the Salaf, and the Imams, and the followers of Imam Ahmad, and the Ahlul Hadith, and so, and the Ijma' of the Ummah, and the Ijma' of the Muhaddithin, and the Ijma' of the Fuqaha, and the Ijma' of everybody. And then he doesn't say directly who said what. He puts his own twist, his own wording on what he wants everyone to be saying, and then he attributes it to everybody. When we already know that no two people say exactly the same thing, the same way. Everybody says it in their own words. And those words can be interpreted the right way or misinterpreted. But he said that all the Hanabil and Ahlul Hadith and Ahlul Tasawwuf and this is why scholars said that when Ibn Taymiyyah does this, he's not trustworthy. You have to go back and check from what those scholars said if Ibn Taymiyyah was right or wrong, because he gets emotional and he starts to ascribe things to people that when you go check their works, you see that either he misunderstood it, or he just twisted their words around. This is why they would be careful in what they would take from him when he says the ijma' and this and that, and they say when we go and check, you see that actually, no. No, it's not like that. So Ibn Hamdan said on page 30, وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى لَيْسَ بِجَوْهَرٍ وَلَا عَرَضٍ وَلَا جِسْمٍ. And Allah is not a substance, and He's not an accident, and He's not a physical body. After Ibn Taymiyyah, other Hanabila also look at what they said. They say what the early Hanbalis of the school have said. Al-Imam Abdul Baqi al-Mawahibi al-Hanbali. I read from his book some quotes that indicate that the Ash'aris and Maturidis are from Ahl Sunnah, because in all the Hanbali books they're said to be from Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. In this book right here, Al-Ain wal-Athar fi Aqadi Ahl al-Athar, 2 weeks ago when we had this class, we read from this book, we mentioned a quote, the statement that he made when he was saying that the books of Kalam of the Ash'aris and Maturidis mention these three groups grouped up as one as being from Ahl Sunnah, and all the books of the Hanbalis mention it like this. So Al-Imam Abdul Baqi al-Mawahibi al-Hanbali, who died 1,071 years after the Hijrah. This is 1432 now. So he died a while ago, right? He died a few hundred years ago. He says, وَيَجِبُ الْجَزْمُ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى لَيْسَ بِجَوْهَرٍ وَلَا جِسْمٍ وَلَا عَرَضٍ. And it is a must to affirm with conviction that Allah the Exalted is not a jawhar, a jism, or an arad. I think we know many times we translate that what those mean, right? He's not a substance, not a body, not an accident. Arad is accident, jism is body, jawhar is a substance or an indivisible particle. Ibn Balban al-Hanbali, who we mentioned him, that he's the one who made the mukhtasar of this book, the Nihayat al-Mubtadi'een, that we just read from of Ibn Hamdan al-Hanbali. He made a shortened or abridged version of that book. In his abridged version of the Nihayat al-Mubtadi'een, Ibn Balban al-Hanbali, rahimahullah ta'ala, said, and he died 1,083 years after Hijrah, right? So he died 12 years after Abdul Baqi al-Mawahibi. He says, وَيَجِبُ الْجَزْمُ بِأَنَّ اللَّهَ تَعَالَى لَيْسَ بِجَوْهَرٍ وَلَا جِسْمٍ وَلَا عَرَضٍ. And it's a must to affirm, he says the same words, and it is a must to affirm with conviction that Allah the Exalted is not a jawhar, a jism, or an arad. Al-Imam As-Safarini, rahimahullah, who made the poem that the Hanabila, some Hanbalis of Najd, requested him to make about the Aqidah of Al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and when he made it, and they read it, and they read its explanation, they refuted, they sent it with footnotes, refuting what he says, explaining his poem. He said in that poem, line number 43, وَلَيْسَ رَبُّنَا بِجَوْهَرٍ وَلَا جِسْمٍ وَلَا عَرَضٍ تَعَالَى ذُو الْعُلَى. He said, And our Lord is not a jawhar or a jism or an arab. Exalted is He, the most exalted. Muhammad ibn Abdul Aziz ibn Mani', one of the explainers of Al-Imam As-Safarini's poem, says in his explanation, لأن الجسم متركب ومتحيز وذلك أمارة الحدوث. He says because the jism, the physical body, is made up of parts and it has a location, it has a space or an area that it's located in. And those are signs of temporality. Being made up of parts is a possibility that comes after the existence of the parts it's made up of. It has to, those parts have to exist first, then they're assembled together. So that itself is an indication of temporality because it's something in addition to the existence of those parts. Those parts can exist without being all put together and composed into one thing, right? So being assembled, that is an indication of temporality because it's something in addition to the existence of that thing that the thing can do without, it can exist without it, but that cannot exist without the existence of those things that it is made up of. And also being in a place is also an indication, being in a place is also an indication of temporality. Why? Because existence is possible, existence is possible without a place, and a place has to have that thing. A place could have that thing existing in it, but when that thing is existing in that place, that has a prerequisite. The prerequisite is the existence of that thing and the place. So that also is an indication of temporality. Mar'i ibn Yusuf al-Karmi al-Hanbali, who was another Hanbali scholar who died 1,033 years after the Hijrah. So Al-Imam As-Safarini died 1,188 years after the Hijrah. This Imam, Mar'i ibn Yusuf al-Karmi al-Hanbali, died 1,033 after the Hijrah. He says in his book called Bahjatul Nadhirin wa Ayatul Mustadillin. Now Ibn Taymiyyah died 728. These are Imams of Hanbalis who came before Ibn Taymiyyah. In his lifetime were called the Shaykh al-Hanabila in Ibn Taymiyyah's lifetime. And after Ibn Taymiyyah, all of these shuyukh are saying pretty much the same thing here. In his book called Bahjatul Nadhirin wa Ayatul Mustadillin, which is still a manuscript, like we said, about this book. We don't know. Look how long it took for this book to finally get put out, to finally be printed. We don't know how long it's going to take for this book, because it totally disagrees. They don't want this book to be printed, I'm sure. Because of this great Hanbali scholar who says in it, Laysa subhanahu bi jawharin wala jismin wala jawhar. Allah Ta'ala is not an arab, a jism, or a jawhar. He says this in this book. Allah Ta'ala is not an accident or a body or a substance. Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, now we go to Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, who was Ibn Qayyim's student and who listened to and learned the Nuniyah of Ibn Qayyim from Ibn Qayyim the same year Ibn Qayyim died. And this Nuniyah has things that goes against Ahlul Sunnah in it, and describes the theologians of the Ummah from Ahlul Sunnah to be Jahmis, to be the army of Genghis Khan and all this kind of stuff. Like they're the Mongolian Tatars who came and murdered the Muslims and destroyed the Muslim empire, stuff like this, describing them with very harsh words. But look at the stance of Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali in his book called Fadlu Ilm al-Salafi ala Ilm al-Khalaf. I'm going to see. I had this book. I don't know if I brought it with me or not. Looks like I may have left that one home. Yeah, I didn't bring it with me this time. But I had the translation of it that I would like to have read directly from the translation, because the Salafi translated it, and I wanted to show that the same books that they have in the stores, 52nd Street and all these same books are refuting them, are showing that, look, check this out. If you're looking for the truth, you can, inshallah, your eyes are open, you know what you're looking for, you can find it. The superiority of the knowledge of the Salaf over the knowledge of the Khalaf. He says, after mentioning the Mu'tazila and those who basically explain they give a figurative explanation to different ayat of the Quran and hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which, if understood literally, could mean physical body limbs and change of movement. So they make ta'wil of that. He mentioned them first. Then he mentioned wathani. He said in the second group of people are the ones man rama bi ithbati dhalika, man rama ithbat dhalika bi adillat al-uqul allati lam yarid biha al-atharu ورد على أولئك مقالتهم كما هي طريقة مقاتل بن سليمان ومن تابعه كنوح بن أبي مريم وتابعهم طائفة من المحدثين قديما وحديثا وهو أيضا مسلك الكرامية. He said, and the second group of the ones who wanted to affirm those texts with intellectual evidences and proofs, that the narrations themselves did not come with or mention or bring. And those people, their statement has been refuted and rejected back on them. And this way, this methodology is also the methodology of Muqatil ibn Sulaiman and those who followed him, like Nuh ibn Abi Maryam. And a group of the Muhaddithin also followed this understanding, this way, in earlier times and in recent times. A group of Muhaddithin in recent times, he says, also went to this way of trying to establish those ambiguous mutashabih texts by using intellectual arguments. Ibn Taymiyyah also, we know that he was the champion of that school. He was one of the ones who did that. So he said, this is also the methodology of the Karramiyya, وَهُوَ أَيْضًا مَسْلَكُ الْكَرَّامِيَّةِ فمنهم من أثبت لإثبات هذه الصفات الجسم إما لفظا وإما معنى. He said that this is also the path of the Karramiyya, because of them are those who affirmed, by affirming these qualities, they affirm the physical body, either literally, actually mentioning jism, or in meaning, or in definition. ومنهم من أثبت لله صفات لم يأت بها الكتاب والسنة. And from them are those who have affirmed for Allah such qualities that did not come in the Quran or in the Sunnah. كالحركة, like movement. Like movement. وغير ذلك, and other things than that. مما هي عنده لازم الصفات الثابتة. Like movement and other than that, from what this person or that group of people believe to be necessitated by the affirmation of these qualities, or by the affirmation of the qualities which are established. So look what he says about this. Now we mentioned movement. Ibn Taymiyyah affirms movement, and he also alludes people on to books of Uthman ibn Sa'id al-Darimi, who affirms movement for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and even says that the sign of something being alive is movement. So he said, وَقَدْ أَنْكَرَ السَّلَفُ عَلَى مُقَاتِلٍ قَوْلَهُ فِي رَدِّهِ عَلَى جَهْمٍ بِأَدِلَّةِ الْعَقْلِ. And the Salaf, they were against and they forbade the action of Muqatil ibn Sulaiman in his statement in refuting Jahm ibn Safwan using intellectual proofs. وَبَالَغُوا فِي الطَّعْنِ عَلَيْهِ. And they went to the extreme in criticizing the methodology of Muqatil ibn Sulaiman and using intellectual proofs to prove the literal meanings of these texts were meant. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ اسْتَحَلَّ قَتْلَهُ. And from them, who's that? From the Salaf. He mentioned وَقَدْ أَنْكَرَ السَّلَف. The Salaf denied this, they forbade this, they criticized him for this. He says, and from them, meaning from the Salaf, مَنْ اسْتَحَلَّ قَتْلَهُ. From the Salaf are those who said that killing him is halal, that his blood is halal, he can be killed. Minhum, from them, Makki ibn Ibrahim, Shaykh al-Bukhari wa ghayr. And from them was Makki ibn Ibrahim, one of the teachers and sheikhs of al-Imam al-Bukhari and other than him. So their stance was what? Their stance was a harsh stance against those who took this idea, those who said such statements. Now let's see what Ibn Taymiyyah said. I know that was a long introduction, it took a long time, but now we're going to look at a few quotes. Ibn Taymiyyah, look what he says about in the hadith of the nuzul, the hadith, in his explaining the hadith of the descent, the hadith of descending. He says, page 80, وَأَمَّا الشَّرْعُ فَمَعْلُومٌ أنه لم ينقل عن أحد من الأنبياء ولا الصحابة ولا التابعين ولا سلف الأمة أن الله جسم أو أن الله ليس بجسم بل النفي والإثبات بدعة في الشرع. He said, as for the Islamic law, it is known that it has not been transmitted or related from anyone from the prophets or the Sahaba or the Tabi'een or the Salaf of the Ummah that Allah is a physical body or that Allah is not a physical body. Rather, negation and affirmation are both an innovation in the religion. Did you hear all the quotes we just said? Did you hear all the quotes we just said? The Imams of the Hanbalis before anybody else, they said that this Allah is not a jism. Even Ibn Taymiyyah in some of his other writings, one of his other books, he said that the Hanbali madhab is different from the Ash'aris and Maturidis, that they make takfir on somebody who says Allah Ta'ala is a body. They say that person is a disbeliever. The one who says Allah Ta'ala is a body or has the traits of a body, some of the Ash'aris, they disagree about that. Some of the Ash'aris say that person is a kafir, that person is a disbeliever. Others say it depends. If they're a layman, or they're ignorant, or they're unable to use their intellect to understand why Allah is not a body, then that person may not be a kafir, as long as they don't, their situation is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it may not just be as simple as saying that they're a kafir because they say some statements that could be understood that Allah Azza wa Jalla is a body. Because the layman, depending on what kind of mind they have, they may not be intelligent enough to understand a God who is not in a place or a physical body or moving like we are. Because it's beyond anything that they can comprehend. It's beyond anything that you can compare it to, obviously, because there's nothing like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So some people can't comprehend whatever they cannot compare to something that they already know. So for that, they make an excuse for them. But the Hanbalis are different. The Hanbalis say, no, that person's a disbeliever. So now you see, when Ibn Hamdan says, whoever says Allah Ta'ala is in a place, that person's a disbeliever, you see that the Hanabila used to understand a person believing Allah Ta'ala is in a place was saying Allah Ta'ala is a body. And that's why they make takfir of him. That's why they said that the person's a kafir. So Ibn Taymiyyah's statement here, as you see, is baseless. He can't say that no one from the Salaf of the Ummah said that Allah is a body or is not a body. His own student Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali just said that the Salaf denied Muqatil ibn Sulaiman making such a statement that he made against Jahl, and that the teacher of Al-Imam al-Bukhari, Makki ibn Sulaiman, said that his blood is halal. He said his blood is halal. So how could this be absent from Ibn Taymiyyah? How could Ibn Taymiyyah not know about such a thing? Al-Muwafaqa, another book of Ibn Taymiyyah, he says, وَكَذَلِكَ قَوْلُهُ, and thus Allah Ta'ala is also saying, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ, that there's nothing like Allah Ta'ala, and He's the all-hearing, the all-seeing. In Surah Shura, and Allah Ta'ala is saying, هَلْ تَعْلَمُ لَهُ سَمِيًّا, do you know anyone who deserves His names besides Him? In Surah Maryam, he says, and the likes of this, Ibn Taymiyyah is saying, and the likes of these ayats do not indicate the negation of the qualities of Allah in any way. He said, no, rather they do not even negate what the people of terminologies call a jism, a physical body, in any way. So he's saying that Allah Ta'ala is saying, Laysa kamithlihi shay, does not negate Allah Ta'ala is what people understand in the science of theology to be a physical body. It doesn't negate that from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Dangerous statements. And saying that, his first statement that it's a bid'ah in the Islamic law to affirm or deny Allah Ta'ala is a jism, this is insane. Because look, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum also didn't talk about the Quran being created or not being created. But later on, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah himself, who was the Imam of the madhab that Ibn Taymiyyah attributes himself to, Ahmad ibn Hanbal rahimahullah ta'ala said that it's not sufficient for a person to say now that the Quran is the speech of Allah and then stop and not continue and say that it's not created. They have to say that the Quran is the speech of Allah, not created. They can't just say the Quran is the speech of Allah. They used to have a name for people who did that. They call them the waqifiyah, the people who pause, like the pausers, the stoppers. That a person who just says the Quran is the speech of Allah and silent, no, this is not enough. you have to say it is not created. Because if you just say it's the speech of Allah, you might mean it's created, may mean it's not created. So you have to state clearly that it's not created. They made this incumbent on whoever says the Quran is the speech of Allah. Whereas that didn't come in the Quran, that didn't come in the Sunnah. So then, what a person, can they also say then affirming that and negating that is also an innovation in the religion? No. They want someone to have a stance on that. And then what's the stance? The stance is not what the Mu'tazila said, but what the ijma' of the ummah was against what the Mu'tazila said. So why don't they do the same thing about jism? All the Hanabila say Allah is not a jism. They have an ijma' on this. They have an ijma' amongst the Hanbalis and the Ash'aris and Maturidis that Allah is not a jism, Allah is not a physical body, to the extent that the Hanbalis go so far to say whoever says so is a disbeliever. So a person can't say after that to affirm it or to deny it are both innovations and it shouldn't be done. When your own school is saying whoever says Allah is a body is a disbeliever and Allah Ta'ala is not a body.
Now, have you ever heard of, because I've heard of some Muslim people who are saying that Allah is not a body or he's not his creation, but yet it's still, on a side note, it's been heard by other people that they're saying that he is like they're saying he is off his throne physically and what have you. And it seems like they're contradicting themselves and in the spotlight they're saying one thing, but in the darkness they're saying something else amongst,
Insha'Allah ta'ala, if Allah gives me tawfiq and basically just the will, because Abul Hassan Malik made, there was a recording that he did a couple years back after we put some clips on YouTube. And in that, basically he was saying that he was negating Allah having a body like the body of the creations. But the thing is that because we know Ibn Taymiyyah's methodology and we understand the Salafi methodology, we know that what they're really refuting is likeness of Allah to the creation. Not that Allah Ta'ala is not a body. What they're saying is that he's not a body like the bodies of the creation. Which is why every time he mentioned it, and I want to point it out, I'm going to, inshallah ta'ala, gather every time he said that, like a body of the creation. Whenever he said Allah is not a body, he always got to say he's not a body like the bodies of the creation. He's not saying Allah is not a body and silent and stopping. That Allah has a body like the bodies of the creation, body like the bodies of the creation, body like the bodies of the creation. Every time he says like not the body of the, so he understands Ibn Taymiyyah's methodology very well. And the way he's speaking shows his understanding that the negation is not the negation of Allah having a body. Because like Ibn Taymiyyah said, affirmation or negation of this is an innovation. So they don't deny. They actually confirm, but they don't confirm directly. Like Ibn Rajab said, either lafdhan or ma'nan. They affirm Allah as a physical body either by saying he is, literally is a body, or in meaning. Meaning like what befits a body befits him. Direction, movement, change, all this kind of stuff. So the ones who are saying Allah Ta'ala is not a body, they have to take a stance. And from that group, you may talk to them privately or may get them in a debate or something, and they say that no, Allah Ta'ala, we don't say Allah is a body. Allah is not a body. Okay, if you say Allah is a body, I have to accept that from you. I can't say you say what you just said you don't say. I don't put words in your mouth. If you don't believe Allah is not a body, alhamdulillah, you don't believe Allah is a body. But let me ask you a question. What is your position on somebody who doesn't say Allah Ta'ala is not a body? Who stops? Like the waqifiyya about Allah being a body, the pausers. Allah is Allah. Is he a body or not? Oh, I don't say he is or I don't say he isn't. What does it say? You don't know. I don't say the Quran's created. I don't say it's not created then. You want to play games and play games with everything. Don't play games with Allah, but you give respect to the Quran. If you say the Quran is not created, then say Allah is not a body. Because both of these negations didn't exist in the Prophet ﷺ's time. Negating that the Quran is not created, didn't exist. Negating that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not a body, you won't find a hadith actually saying those words like this. These were bid'ahs that came later that the ulama had to confront later. So they said words that befitted the innovation that they were confronting. They used words that befit the innovation that they had to confront. So people saying Allah was a body, said no, he's not a body. He's not a jawhar, he's not an arab. So the ones who are saying that, alhamdulillah, if they say Allah is not a body, then we don't have a qualms with them. But my thing is then if you say Allah is not a body, what do you believe about a person who says Allah is a body?
Well, I'll give you an example. For instance, you probably have Allah that he's on Now, if you look in it, you know, I think I mentioned before it was one that it was a footnote in there.
Okay.
I think it was maybe points were between 70 and somewhere between, and it was talking about something about the faithful or something like that. And someone put the footnote, well, we don't believe it, just literal or what have you. But then you go in the back of the book and they bring up all these hadiths about the hadith about the slave girl, and you know, and they try. It seems like it's confusing to me because when you're saying one thing, but they use this hadith about the slave girl, you know, when they're saying, oh, you know, what, you know, about confirming whether Allah is in a place or whether He's attributed with this or with that, and it seems like it's kind of confusing, at least to me, because in the book they say one thing, and they're saying, well, you know, Allah is in a body, not a place, what have you. Okay. And then, you know, you read in the books, and from what I've read, they only had the translation, they didn't have the actual Arabic.
No, the Arabic is not there.
You seem to use that one narration, which I heard was, I don't know about all the other narrations, but I heard that particular narration was, I think, it was only one person that narrated that hadith, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the hadith of the slave girl?
Yeah. I think they
said there's a lot of narrations for the slave girl. The one that they used?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think they said was, I'm not reading somewhere that it was maybe just maybe one person narrated that had maybe that particular one. I don't know about the other narrations, but I remember reading somewhere that one was classified as just maybe just one person narrated it.
The thing is that if any hadiths that are sound, we accept them. We differ with the innovators in our understanding. All of the Quran we accept. We disagree with the innovators in their understanding. So the thing is that if a person is trying to prove by narrating these hadiths and these ayat of the Quran something that contravenes the ijma' of the ummah from earlier and later times, we disagree with their understanding. We won't disagree with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because we believe that Allah Ta'ala would not have the ummah to reach a consensus on something that was misguidance or something that was erroneous or a mistake. We don't believe this, that Allah Ta'ala would have the majority of the ummah wrong and the principles of the religion. That's what happened to the Christians and the Jews and other people. They would kill and murder prophets. The Jews would, they are the prophet killers and such like this. And the Christians, they're the ones who adopted the Trinity after the Prophet Isa alayhi salam was raised up to the sky and was gone from them. So, this ummah is an ummah that's marhuma. This is an ummah that Allah has mercy on. The Prophet used to make dua for this ummah a lot. And Allah Ta'ala said that, وَلَسَوْفَ يُعْطِيكَ رَبُّكَ فَتَرْضَى, and Allah will soon give you that which will please you. So this ummah, we believe, is dearer to the Prophet ﷺ and to Allah, to have the majority of the ummah to be wrong on the principles of the religion, or to have a misunderstanding about their Lord, and that is the majority of the scholars, majority of the ummah believe incorrect beliefs about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So such people as these who they bring these ideas and they mention these things like this, many times it's really just based on a misunderstanding. We accept the hadith as they come when they're sound. You know what I'm saying? And after that, there's two ways to deal with it. Either we just say we believe in whatever Allah Ta'ala meant by it and we don't give it a meaning, but we know that the incorrect meanings are not meant, or we say the meaning of it is this, or the approximate meaning of it is that. You know what I'm saying? And both of those ways are valid. To make tafweed or ta'weel. Now Ibn Taymiyyah and the Salafis have a problem with both ta'weel and tafweed. They say that figurative interpretation is negation of the ayats and negation of the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ. By giving it a figurative interpretation, you're denying it. And we say, no, we still believe in it. But we believe that those meanings that you all understand that apply to human beings and to creatures don't apply to Allah. Like we believe in the ayah where Allah Ta'ala says, وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ, and He's with you wherever you are. We believe that the meaning is His knowledge and not Allah Himself. So did we negate that? Did we deny? Did we disbelieve in that ayat of the Quran where Allah Ta'ala says, وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ? Because we didn't say that the literal meaning was the one Allah meant? No, of course not. Because they agree with us about that ta'wil. They say, oh yeah, that ta'wil is okay. To say that Allah is with you with His knowledge, not Himself, that's okay. But any other ta'wil is totally wrong. Well, what hadith did you get that from? Where did you get that from? Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma said that the courtesy of Allah is His ilm. It's not a chair or something like this or a footstool. It's His Allah Ta'ala's knowledge. You know, He said that the saq, when Allah Ta'ala mentions in Surah Noon, basically that, you know, Yawma yukshafu an saq. It's also called Surah Al-Qalam. When Allah Ta'ala removes the saq, you know, say, or uncovers the saq. So I'm saying, like, Abdullah ibn Abbas alayhima, with one of the Prophet ﷺ, what did he say about him? That Allah gave him knowledge of the book, gave him the understanding of the ta'wil. When he makes ta'wil, why are you rejecting the ta'wil of Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu? When he's saying that, you know, the meaning here is the difficulty. You know what I'm saying? So we believe in these texts when they are sound. We believe in them as they came. The difference between us and the other people is that we say that Allah Ta'ala knows best what He meant, and if we have to, if it's a must, you know, then we give an interpretation to it. You know what I'm saying? But the Salafis in general are very confused. Al-Barbahari says one thing, Ibn Taymiyyah says something. Also, like I said, if they don't understand the difference between the actual Hanbali methodology and they know Ibn Taymiyyah's methodology, they really be confused because they're both different. They'll try to make two things that don't mix together and make them one. We see that the actual Hanbalis are saying Allah's not a jism, not a jawhar, not a arab, like the Ash'aris and Maturidis do. But if they say that Ibn Taymiyyah is on the same methodology as these other shuyukh, then they really misunderstood things. They're going to have all kind of contradictions because they're taking from different schools at one time that are saying opposite things that they don't even know. You know what I'm saying? So Al-Barbahari also mentions something in his Aqeedah, I may even have it here somewhere, where he's basically saying that any of those texts that your mind cannot understand, it is upon you to affirm it and to believe in it. Look what he said. He said in the Sharh al-Sunnah, Al-Barbahari says, وَكُلُّ مَا سَمِعْتَ مِنَ الْآثَارِ شَيْئًا. I think they have كُلُّ and ma separate. I think that it should be one word. وَكُلَّ مَا سَمِعْتَ مِنَ الْآثَارِ شَيْئًا مِمَّا لَمْ يَبْلُغْهُ عَقْلُكَ. And anytime you hear from the narrations anything that your intellect cannot perceive or your intellect cannot comprehend, نحو قول رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قلوب العباد بين إصبعين من أصابع الرحمن عز وجل وقوله إن الله ينزل إلى السماء الدنيا وينزل يوم عرفة وينزل يوم القيامة. Like the saying of the Prophet ﷺ that the hands of the slaves are between two isba' from the asabi' al-Rahman, right? Translated commonly as fingers, two fingers. The common translation of it, we know Allah doesn't have body parts, doesn't have limbs and such. But this is how the translation of it would be, right? Or that Allah Ta'ala descends to the lowest heaven, or Allah Ta'ala descends on the day of Arafah, or on the day of judgment, such like this. Look what He says at the end. وأشباه هذه الأحاديث فعليك بالتسليم والتصديق والتفويض. And when you hear the likes of these narrations, it is a must for you to consign, to believe in it, to accept it, and to make tafweed, to consign the meanings of it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to make tafweed, ورضا, and to be pleased. ولا تفسر شيئا من هذه بهواك, and not to give tafsir or explanation of any of these things based on your desires. فإن الإيمان بهذا واجب, because believing in this is wajib. Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahullah ta'ala also said, well, we mentioned these statements, but the thing is basically that Al-Barbahari said things that go against the current Salafi madhab. All they say now is that this sheikh made a mistake, or the actual correct statement is this and that, and this is how they try to get out of it. But these shuyukh are all making the same mistake. So that means it's not a mistake. It means that's actually their methodology. that these are not understood literally. Oh yeah, we were quoting some of the quotes. Let's say some more of these quotes of Ibn Taymiyyah. This is so people can understand that whole reason why we quoted those are to quote these. Ibn Taymiyyah also said, وَأَمَّا ذِكْرُ التَّجْسِيمِ وَذَمِّ الْمُجَسِّمَةِ وَذَمُّ الْمُجَسِّمَةِ فهذا لا يعرف في كلام أحد من السلف والأئمة كما لا يعرف في كلامهم أيضا القول بأن الله جسم أو ليس بجسم بل ذكروا في كلامهم الذي أنكروه على الجهمية نفي الجسمية كما ذكره أحمد في كتاب الرد على الجهمية. And as for the mentioning of anthropomorphism, or Allah being a physical body, and the criticism of the mujassima, the ones who say Allah is a physical body, this is not known from the statements of anyone from the Salaf and the Imams. Just as it is not known in their speech also the statement that Allah is a physical body or is not a physical body. So who are these Imams? When he's saying this, as-Salaf wal-A'imma, the Salaf, the righteous Salaf, we already saw Ibn Rajab himself, a Hanbali scholar, said, no, when Muqatil ibn Sulaiman said what he said, that Makki ibn Ibrahim, the Shaykh of Al-Imam al-Bukhari, said that istahalla qatlahu. He said that it is halal to execute him. So what Salaf, these are two shuyukh in the same madhab, the same Hanbali madhab, saying opposite things. Ibn Taymiyyah said no one from the Salaf. Wal A'imma. When he says Al A'imma, I don't know who he's talking about except the Karramiyah and Uthman ibn Sayyid al-Darimi and people like this. Because these shuyukh were imams. The people that said Allah is not a jism, they were also imams. From before his time, during his time, and after his time, they were imams who said Allah is not a jism. So when he's saying as-Salaf wal A'imma, Allahu Alam, what he's like, who he really means, is very vague terms he's using. So they say that he's saying that the Salaf and the Imams, it is not known from their speech the statement that Allah is a jism or is not a jism. This is wrong. He also said in the Minhaj, his book called Minhaj al-Sunnah al-Nabawiyah, he says that, and as for وَأَمَّا مَا ذَكَرَهُ مِنْ لَفْظِ الْجِسْمِ وَمَا يَتْبَعُ ذَلِكَ فَإِنَّ هَذَا اللَّفْظَ لَمْ ينطق به في صفات الله لا كتاب ولا سنة لا نفيا ولا إثباتا ولا تكلم به أحد من الصحابة والتابعين وتابعيهم ولا أهل البيت ولا أهل البيت ولا غيرهم. So he's saying here that as for what he has said about the word jism and what is connected to that, this wording jism concerning the qualities of Allah was not mentioned in the Quran or in the Sunnah by way of negation or affirmation. Nor did anyone from the Sahaba or the Tabi'een or their Tabi'een, the ones who came after them, basically he's saying the first three generations, nor did anyone from them use this or talk about this, nor the Ahlul Bayt, nor anyone else. He also said in his Majmu' al-Fatawa, ثم لفظ التجسيم لا يوجد في كلام أحد من السلف لا نفيا ولا إثباتا فكيف يحل أن يقال مذهب السلف نفي التجسيم أو إثباته. Furthermore, the word tajseem, or saying Allah is a body, is not found in the statements of anyone from the Salaf by way of negation or affirmation. So how could it be lawful for it to be said that the madhab of the Salaf is the negation of anthropomorphism or Allah being a body, or the affirmation of it? How could it be said that the negation or the affirmation of Allah being a body is the methodology of the Salaf? So I'm saying, why did we mention these statements? So you could look, dear listener, dear watcher, whoever is there, anyone who may be listening, so you could see how different the statements of the Hanbalis are from Ibn Taymiyyah's statements. And also see how the Ash'aris and Maturidis and Hanbalis are one on this issue of Allah not being a physical body. This is something that they agree upon, and Ibn Taymiyyah disagrees with them. This is made clear, inshaAllah Rabbil Alameen, by what we read, that this is not just a statement or an idea of a group of heretics who just went against the Salaf and the Khalaf and they just have their own methodology. And no, if you were to say that the methodology of the Ash'aris and Maturidis is wrong concerning Allah Ta'ala not being a body, you'd have to say that the Hanbalis are also wrong. So that would mean all three groups of Ahl Sunnah are wrong and you're right. So who are you? And who is your group? How small is that group then that would make all of those other people wrong? And those are the three groups of the Ahl Sunnah. They're all incorrect, yet your group, your small group, is right. Look at this. Wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh. Hayyakum Allah. Uthman ibn Sa'id al-Darimi, he says that in his Naqd ala Bishr al-Marisi, his refutation of Bishr al-Marisi, he says that وَوَلِيَ خَلْقَ آدَمَ بِيَدِهِ مَسِيسًا, that Allah Ta'ala himself, he took upon himself to create Adam alayhi salam by touching him, through touching. Masisa. This addition is found nowhere. This is not from the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, from the Hadith, from the Quran, nowhere. This is an innovation. This addition is an innovation in describing and making tafsir of Allah's creation of Adam alayhi salam. He said, Massahu Masisa. He touched him in touching him, in contact. But look though, Ibn Qayyim says, the two books of Ad-Darimi, and this is not the Muhaddith Ad-Darimi that has Sunan Ad-Darimi. This is another Darimi. When you're reading the books that narrated by Ad-Darimi, this is not him. This is not this one. This is another Darimi. And this just shows again how the athar or the legacy of the Ahl Sunnah many times is huge, is used, is accepted. They have books that are everywhere, that people read them, love their books. But when the people of innovation, a lot of times, are only known for the books of innovation that they wrote. Like, then no other books are really known from him except like these two books that we're about to mention. Al-Naqd ala Bishr al-Marisi wal-Radd ala al-Jahmiyyah. The refutation of Bishr al-Marisi and the refutation of the Jahmiyyah. Those are his main two books of Uthman ibn Sa'id al-Darimi. But the other Darimi has the Sunan Darimi that we all heard of. If not for that Darimi, we wouldn't have never heard of a person named Darimi. Because that's how unknown he is except to the anthropomorphist group. You see? So look, the two books of Ad-Darimi, including the one where he just mentioned Allah Ta'ala touched Adam alayhi salam in contact, actually touching, physically touching him when he created him. And the refutation of the Jahmiyyah, which has other statements in it that are not right, that are very bad. He says, "Min ajall al-kutub al-musannafa fi sunnati wa anfa'iha." That he said that these two books are from the greatest books that were compiled for the sunnah and the most beneficial. وينبغي لكل طالب سنة مراده الوقوف على ما كان عليه الصحابة والتابعون والأئمة أن يقرأ كتابيه. And it befits any follower of the Sunnah and the seeker of finding what the Sahaba and the Tabi'een and the Imams were upon, to read his two books. Al-Naqd ala Bishr al-Marisi, where he says that Allah Ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam by touching him. And there's also statements in there like that Allah Ta'ala is definitely moving. The sign of that which is moving, the sign of that which is alive is movement, and that which is dead is stillness. And Allah is definitely alive. So ayatul hayat al-haraka, alamatul hayat al-haraka, the sign of life is movement. So Allah Ta'ala must be moving, because Allah is alive, and stuff like, I guess, rocks and doors and houses and stuff does not move, and the things is dead, they're lifeless. Statements like this in these two books. Ibn Qayyim is saying, whoever wants to find a way to Sahaba, the Tabi'een, the A'imma, we still know who these Imams are that they're mentioning, the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, and the Imams, they should definitely read these two books of Ad-Darimi. Now look what he says. وَكَانَ Shaikh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. Then he says, rahimahullah, يُوصِي بِهَذَيْنِ الْكِتَابَيْنِ. He said Ibn Taymiyyah used to advise people very strongly. يُوصِي بِهَذَيْنِ الْكِتَابَيْنِ أَشَدَّ الْوَصِيَّةِ. He used to advise very strongly people read these two books. وَيُعَظِّمُهُمَا جِدًّا. And he used to speak of them very highly. He used to speak very highly of these two books and say how great they were. وَفِيهِمَا مِن تَقْرِيرِ التَّوْحِيدِ وَالْأَسْمَاءِ وَالصِّفَاتِ بِالْعَقْلِ وَالنَّقْلِ مَا لَيْسَ فِي غَيْرِهِمَا. And they both contain from affirming the Tawheed and Allah Ta'ala's names and qualities, using intellect and transmission. Remember what Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali said about people who use intellect to affirm these qualities and such, that the Imams of the Salaf and the Khalaf, from the Salaf, they said that their blood is lawful. He said these two books have what other books do not have, an affirmation of these names and qualities through intellect and through reason. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll stop there. May Allah give us tawfiq and understanding in what we said. There's enough proof and evidence, right? Like we said, this is not a court, but you make your own judgment. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Jazakumullahu khairan.